Your conscience is the part of you that knows. So what is a conscience? Your conscience is the part of you that knows. Con means with. Science means knowledge. With knowledge. Your conscience is the part of you that knows. Or another way to say this is that your conscience knows what you know. Your conscience knows what you know. So if you get pulled over going 65 miles per hour, and the officer says, how fast are you going? I'm going 65. I thought the speed limit was 65. I didn't know that it was 50. Your conscience says, yes, you did. Yes, you did know. Your conscience knows what you know. So you can say one thing, but your conscience is the part of you that knows what you know. Number 2, your conscience judges your inner life. Your conscience judges the inner life. Now, we, in our fallen condition, we can judge other people a lot. But that's really not the purpose of the conscience. The conscience has one person. Your conscience is designed to judge one person. You. My conscience judges me. It judges my inner life. And it is not my heart. It's not my heart. It's not my mind. It's like an umpire, the inner umpire of the soul, judging the inner man, the inner life. Thomas Cranmer says, what the heart loves, the will chooses, and the mind justifies. So what's happening in the soul? What the heart loves, the will chooses, and the mind justifies. I would add to this statement, your conscience judges what your heart loves. Your will chooses, and your mind justifies. That's what your conscience is doing. It's sitting like an umpire, calling balls and strikes over your heart and your will and your mind. This is why there is conflict in your soul. Why do you feel conflict so often? There's conflict for a lot of reasons, but one of them is that there's this inner battle. Your conscience is not the Holy Spirit. Your conscience is distinct from the Holy Spirit. But even people who don't know Christ, they're not filled with God's Spirit. There's a conflict going back and forth in the soul because your conscience is judging your inner life. Several years ago, my kids went out trick-or-treating, and when they go trick-or-treating, they sprint everywhere. They try to cover every house in a 10-mile radius, it feels like. I mean, they're just running everywhere. All these houses, it's incredible. And one particular night was a really good night, really good weather, and really good candy. And so we got home, and they were basking in the glory of their candy. I mean, they were like, this is awesome. And they dumped it all out, 5 kids. They dumped it all out on our living room floor. And they were just looking at it. And then they started to categorize it. Do your kids do this? They're categorizing the Laffy Taffy, the Jolly Ranchers, the Snickers, all the different types of candy. They're categorizing their candy. And then they went to bed. And I said, it's time for me to collect the dad tax. It's time for me to step in. And so they're all asleep. And I like Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. And so I took 4 Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Don't judge me. I took 4 Reese's Peanut Butter Cups from my son, Titan. And the reason is that he had a massive pile, huge pile. And I enjoyed them. He's asleep, I enjoyed them. And then I destroyed the evidence. It's all gone, burned the evidence, it's gone. And I went to sleep. The next day, 4-year-old Titan Timothy walks up to me and he says, Dad, we need to talk. We need to talk. He says, when I went to bed, I had 18 Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. And now I have 14. Now there arose in my soul a conflict. Why? Because my conscience judges what the heart loves, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, what the will chooses, and the mind justifies. And my first thought, my mind moves first to justify me. My heart thought, Titan, your existence depends on me. You live in my house. You eat my food. I can eat all your candy if I want to. What do you mean? I took 4. Are you going to eat all 14? Are you going to eat all this candy? But then my conscience said, you stole candy from a 4-year-old boy. You stole candy and I couldn't shake it. It's like, I know, I did it. Now this is a silly situation, but all of us have had very serious situations with our conscience. I bet you all of us could come up on stage and we could share about how we've gone against our own conscience and how our mind moves to justify what our heart loves and what the will chooses, and how our conscience rises up and condemns. And this is what would happen if we did that. Someone would come up on stage and they would share their story, and part of us would say, I would never do that. And then we'd say, oh no, I have done that, if we're honest. And so we experience condemnation because our conscience sits to judge the human heart. Number 3,